Well, hello, and welcome everyone to our BG5 Live. Today, it is time for a revolution. So we're going to be taking a look at trait number 49. This is February 11th, 2020. This is episode number 40. And like I said, what we're going to take a look at today is trait number 49, principles and revolution. So that's what we're going to take a look at. So as you can see, our team is a little bit smaller today. Chris is going to jump on as soon as she is ready. So let's say hello to Natalie. Hey, Natalie, welcome.
Hi, I'm here.
And as I was mentioning, as we were just getting started, this opens up a huge opportunity for all of you as well. So would love, if you so feel inspired, to contribute and to share your insights on this particular trait. We would love to hear from you as well. And also, as we're going through, if you have any questions, we love questions also. So welcome, welcome, welcome again, everyone who is live here in our Zoom room, everyone that has joined us via Facebook Live, and let's jump in. Again, it's time for a revolution. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look first. We've been slowly moving through and taking a look at how to start off the new year right? We're now in February, but things are really just getting started. So remember, we took a look at 41, and remember it moved into the 41. We moved into the 41, the Dreamer, on January 22nd. This is actually what's known as the Rave New Year, or it's really where the new year starts with this start codon in the 41. We then took a look at 19, taking a look at the social needs. This was the final thrust of pressure and entering into the new cycle. It was the last trait in transformation. And then last week, we took a look at the 13. Whoops, I forgot to check these to make sure they were in order. We took a look at the 13, which was the listener. So listening from the past, again, it's the first trait of initiation with the purpose fulfilled through mind. So we're going to continue after the 13. You can see we have the 49, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So this is about principles. This is about revolution, right? This is where things really start getting moving. So this starts the tribal emotional wave. Remember, we took a look at the 19 a couple of weeks ago. We're now going to take a look at the 49, which is on the other side, right? So here we have the 19. We took a look at the 19 here, and here is the 49. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at today. And next week, that's when things take off, and that's where the fates take hold and take us into the new year. So again, it's been a process. And as we have continually said, it's a process. It's not something to be rushed. It's about waiting. And here we're talking about the 49. We're talking about a revolution. We're talking about principles. This is not something, it's connected to the emotional intelligence. Therefore, again, before you make decisions, you want to make sure that you wait for clarity first. So you can see there's been a lot of waiting in this first part of the month before things really start to get moving. So let's dive in and take a look at trait number 49. And before I do that, I just wanted to see, Natalie, if there's anything that you would like to add as far as this process goes.
I feel kind of like the two of us. Not really. So yeah, so we talked about the 19, and then we also talked a lot about the 49 2 weeks ago. And so yeah, I'm just waiting for actually Thursday that trait 30 comes in.
Yep, yeah. Exactly. So it's not that far off, right? No, February 13th, when things really get moving. So let's dive in and take a look at trait number 49. So this again is the trait of principles. So ideally, the transformation of forms based on the highest principles and not simply for power. right? Because revolution, that can take place to take over power, but this is really the transformation of form based on highest principles. Needs are not being met, right? So something has to happen. And this is knowing what and who is needed or not in a community. So if you take a look at what this is, knowing what and who is needed or not for a community, you don't want to be left out of the community, because if you're left out of the community, you can end up being rejected. So this is the fear of rejection. So this is an awareness function. So it's our emotional intelligence. It's where we're emotionally aware. And in each of the awareness functions, there is also fears associated with it. And again, here we have the fear of rejection. And this is rejecting or accepting something or someone based on their alignment or not with your principles. And if needs are not being met, then it's time for a revolution. So, Natalie, anything that you would like to add here? And again, I'd love to open it up to our broader audience as well, and especially if you have that trait, because none of us on the panel here have this particular trait. So it's not something that we're personally connected to and familiar with. So I would love if any of you do have this particular trait of the 49. Would love to hear the impact that this 49 has.
Well, I actually had a client recently. I'm checking a few of you. Oh, Rachel. I'm going to we are going to ask Rachel. Rachel has it in her core essence, in her personality core essence, the trait 49. So Rachel, I would love to hear your sharings. Yes, I see you have the 49.6. But I have a client who has this also in her actually in her grounding balance, and she really is knowing what and who is needed or not for the community. So it's called revolutions or actually principles, but you don't start a revolution just for the sake of it, but really if it's necessary, and then if whatever happens is not aligned with your highest principles, then you will be able to start a revolution. But if not, you can also just how do you say, move along or So I was actually looking at the fear of rejection. There's something else with the fear of rejection, right? I was spacing out to look for it, but what's the second line of it? Actually, I was looking for it.
No problem.
Oh yeah, the unpredictability of consequences, and that's something she could really resonate with. Like she really felt like she wanted to have everything in order in her business, and have this because of the unpredictability of the community that she was serving actually with her business. So she is also doing trainings with teams, etc. And yeah. Hi, Chris. I'm so happy you're here.
Hi, you guys. Sorry. sorry, I'm late. My call ran
no
over a little
worries.
bit, so
yeah. Well, it's great to have you here. We're talking about principles, and we're talking about it's time for a revolution. Oh, and I know yes. Rachel has this particular trait, so I would love to hear your experience, Rachel.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's also the gate of divorce. So, well, I had a lot of revolution in my lifetime. I was brought up in a farm with I'm the oldest, a family of 6 kids, and a very, very traditional farmer father. So I was a mother that was not taking her part, defending herself at all. So I started the revolution pretty early. And, and after that, I got married, and I stayed married for 2 years only, because every time I had a partner that was not taking my part, when I was giving so much support, I would leave. I would leave everything behind. And I said, that's it, I'm leaving. And for some reason, I had a lot of energy, and I was rebuilding very quickly and better. Now I have a partner. We've been together for 19 years.
Oh.
But inside of me, I always knew that I would have somebody that would be there for me and would be collaborating and everything. And after the sixth one, I got it. but when you have the 49, I have a 49 in the undefined solar plexus, and when you have this wave that comes, it's painful. It's very, very painful. You cannot. It's something happened. Somebody says something, and wrong. There's something that moves up, and it starts the revolution right away. You cannot take it. And what I was doing most of the time, I would withdraw. Because it was too painful, and I would not be nice.
Yeah.
So I was, was just removing myself from the situation.
Yeah, and that's a really good point with this particular trait and this particular wave. This is tribal, right? So we're taking a look at, being a part of the tribe or being rejected from the tribe, and the tribal wave. It sort of ratchets up, 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 and explodes.
Right. Yeah,
and then it resets. And then you're fine, but you may have caused some collateral damage in the wake, right? You may have, again, not waited for clarity and started a revolution only to realize that, once you've exploded that, oh, it wasn't really necessary anyway. But like you said, it can be very painful, that
it is.
The ratchet up, and especially the explosion, because again, when you have collateral damage left from the explosion, and what I mean by that, if people aren't aware, if you're not conscious of it, it can hurt others, and then in return, you end up sort of suffering the consequences of that. So it can be really painful.
Yeah, the principles are so high that we don't believe that other people can understand them. You assist or you hear something and say, "Oh my God, I don't want to be there." So you just remove yourself, and it's not that you're rejected, but I rejected it more than I was rejected.
Yeah.
And having it in an open emotional intelligence center, so it's kind of dormant until it gets connected, right? So, and then boom, you are all of a sudden in this wave. You don't have this, quote unquote wave like all the time in yourself, but this ratcheting up, and especially like you said, Rachel, when somebody says something to you and you go like, whoa, then it's really, ignited.
You cannot contain it. It's so big,
Yeah.
So and it explodes, and that's it. I know it, and it didn't happen very often, but I just remove myself. And when people are telling me, "Why don't you come back?" or anything like that, I said, "Oh, until I'm sure that I would be nice, because I don't know if I'm going to be nice."
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think some really deep insights to, what this trait, is really all about. And I love what you said, Rachel, too, in that sometimes it's, your principles that are so high that you don't accept anything that's less than that.
That's right.
Yeah. Beautifully shared. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So
and how about for you, Chris? Any insights as you jump in and take a look at principles and
It's just a little bit too close to home right now. So let me just put it that way. I don't have the 19 or the 49. My husband has the 19. And it's an intense week. We're in a very intense place right now. So that, I mean, it's just, I'm like looking at this going, okay, this is why I love human design. Like, it's not just about this. It's obviously there's the dynamics that lead up to it, right? If there isn't a dynamic underneath it to come up to the surface, to evaluate next to principles, then it wouldn't, whatever, nothing's going to happen. But to watch that, and he has a defined emotional intelligence function and I don't. So it just and Rachel, what you shared was so helpful and so profound. And so this information is just amazing. And we can see how the transits, it's interesting to me. I was sharing with someone, not that this is what's happening for me per se exactly, but I said, when I was younger, right before Valentine's Day, it's always like something in the relationship comes to a head. Like, it's so interesting. And now it makes perfect sense to me that if it's not a lot, then it's going to come out.
Is it going boom?
Yeah. Just boom.
Yeah. Interesting that this is right before Valentine's Day, isn't that? I never even thought of that.
Because I was like, what's the energy? Like, the 30 makes sense because there'd be all this passion, right?
Right.
And it'd be like, oh yeah, let's get it, right? But and desire and stuff like that. But what's right before it that would cause this, revolution?
By Valentine's Day, it's time to make up.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Right? Either you made it through the 49 and you got it all figured out and you're both on the same page with the principles, or you're like, to hell with it, we're out of here.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's basically what's happening over here. So I'm just like, whoa.
Oh my goodness.
I mean,
and if you take a look at this, even just from the relationship standpoint, it's this fear of rejection. It's just as Rachel was talking about, the explosion, are my needs getting met or not? Is my partner living up to these principles or not? All of these things. So you can see how it can be quite rocky before before Valentine's Day.
Yeah. And just again, to be, a little bit personal, is that with my undefined emotional intelligence function, I can easily be like, too intense, I'm out, and not engage in it. But it's interesting, like, I feel very calm reading this, because now I can go, how can I work with this?
Right.
How can I work with this? How can I support this for both of us? How can I support my husband in this? How can I support us together with this information?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, nothing ever has to be a complete deal breaker, or like, oh, well, that's what it is, so never mind, we're out. It just, and that I think sometimes what can happen when we start to learn about design is there's always this interplay between being able to look at the mechanics of it and go, oh, it's the mechanics, and then also using our decision-making strategy to really know what's correct for us, and not blame design or not put it all on that. We still are us. We're still, there's some accountability for all of that too, Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a balance. And again, this is connected to emotional intelligence. Yeah. So it heightens emotions.
Yes.
That's what it does, and so there is maybe a tendency to be more emotional or more irritated, or, again, taking a look at those principles and seeing where your principles are, and are you living aligned to your own principles or not?
Right.
So that's something to really take a look at during this time. And just as Chris beautifully said, it's how in knowing it, it's about knowing then also in a sense how to take advantage of it so that we don't get controlled by it, that, you know, that things feel out of control, or, you know, we don't know what's happening. It's kind of like the weather report. We can prepare ourselves accordingly and go, okay, you know, this is what's happening. Things are going to be more emotional. This too shall pass. And wait for clarity, because one of the things with the emotional decision-making strategy is never ever making decisions on emotional highs or emotional lows. That's not the place to make a decision. And so, especially if you don't have this defined, right? Like Chris and Rachel and Natalie, you don't have it defined either, you know, especially if you don't have it defined, you know, and you do have, you know, you connect to someone that has the 19 or whatever, and it does, or you have the 19 and it connects up, you know, feeling that emotion that you may not be used to, or being able to see the emotions, you know, of others and realizing and separating yourself from what is yours and what is not yours. Yeah.
And
very important.
one other thing I wanted to point out, so it is tribal, and it is, you know, it's about the highest principles and knowing what and who is needed, but it's a sensitivity to the needs of, you know, the people around you.
Yes.
So I don't want to go into your personal situation, Chris, but it's probably, you know, he's probably the themes that come up are about your family, or about you know, what's needed to survive, or maybe something in I'm just making things up, but you don't have to react. But you just moved house, so, you know, how is this giving us a good shelter, being, you know, the supporting the family, etc. And then, you know, rejecting or not based on you know, what is there. So it's the sensitivity to needs, and it's not so much personal, it is tribal. So it's about the community, about the organization, if it's about the organization, or about your family, or about, you know. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Well,
and Linda, I just see that you've written something. Would you like to actually share? We can read it as well, but if you'd like, we can unmute you.
Hi.
Hey, Linda.
Hi. Yeah, it is just really interesting, like with a client this week where like our principles were being challenged. And then there was this whole dilemma about, you know, do we change our principles to fit in with the client? And there can be a tendency in the business world to think, well, you know, you need to hang on to clients, so we just need to adjust. But we just took some time, went away, and just said, no, these are our principles. This is how we operate. And either they align to that or they're not. And if they are not aligned, then they can leave. And so we just stood our ground, shared what we do and how we do it and why we do it, and they've chosen to stay, which is super cool, you know?
Yeah. And there is something in that where it's like, when you stick by your principles, people respect that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's the sense that we got. Was almost like, okay, cool, I get it now. Yeah, I'm aligned to that, and I'll stick around, you know. Where it's, when they first challenge, it's this feeling like, oh, maybe we're doing something wrong, maybe we need to do something differently. But we took the time, like a whole week before we went back, and just was like, okay, no, this is actually what we stand for.
Wow.
It's awesome.
Yeah, very beautiful example. And I like the fact also that you took the time, right? You took a week to kind of go through it and then say, no, you know, these are our principles. And you like it? Great. Welcome aboard. If not, it's fine too, you know?
Yes.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Linda.
You're welcome.
And I think that, yeah, that's a great example, Linda, and really leaning into the fear of rejection. It's like with the fear of rejection, what would be to hold back and go, okay, let's stay in the dance, the shadow of it. When you go, it's not about rejection. It's about what's important to me. Yes. And it has really nothing to do with the other person. You know, exactly. I would say often is that if we show up fully as ourselves, fully and completely as ourselves, and nobody likes it, it's all about them. But if we limit ourselves and we hold back and we don't share ourselves fully, it's all about us. We're the ones who rejected us. Nobody else did that. How could they? They didn't get the full package.
Yeah.
And so I love that you brought the full package, and oftentimes the full package is what people want.
Yeah.
You know, and how often do we, because of that fear of rejection, we don't bring it. And then we blame the other person, thinking it's because of them and it has nothing to do with them. That's an illusion.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Nice.
Thank you.
Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's actually take this one step further. Let's take a look at the quality that's behind today as well. So what the quality is, it's quality for. And remember, when we're talking about quality for, this is the influencer. It's influencing those within your networks. And the quality for in trait number 49 is about a platform, having a platform in a sense to deliver your message. So the elevation is a political and social agenda embodied in guarantees to human rights that ensures a just and valued replacement of the old order. This is a potential sensitivity to the needs of society. So being attuned to the needs of society and taking a look at how can we ensure just and valued replacement of the old order, the revolution, right, to uphold principles that are important to human rights. Now, on the challenging side is promises, promises, promises. And only to guarantee support with little possibility of implementation. Potential insensitivity to take advantage of the needs of society. You know, here in the United States, we're in an election cycle year. So there's a lot of this going on currently. So it's something I think that's really important to just to be aware of as well.
So do la 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 this week. You don't want to hear the promises this week.
Yeah, exactly.
But also being tuned into who is making promises that they can really keep, right? Who's speaking in a way that really ensures a just and value replacement of the old order, and who's just blah 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 blah. They're just saying what they think you want to hear to try to get your support, but they have no interest in actually fulfilling on the promises. They're just trying to get you on board, right? And so the potential to insensitivity, to take advantage of the needs of society. They know that this is what the needs are, so I'm going to promise all this stuff, not that I'm going to deliver, but I'm just going to promise. Promises, promises, promises. Right. So again, we can see this big theme right now in the political arena, especially here in the United States.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Anything you would like to add, either of you? No.
I'd love to go to the celebrity. Let's do the celebrity.
Let's do the celebrity.
Okay. You know, and it's very interesting. Notice that, and this is something that I also think is a little bit sad in this day and age as well. So we have to kind of tiptoe around, you know, these political topics because it is so, it can be so charged.
Yeah, because we haven't learned how to have a conversation about it in a way that is not like non-judgmental, or just like, let's have a discourse. It's sort of like, oh, we just don't talk about that, or whatever the case may be.
Exactly. Or if you say something, you take a side.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Like, exactly. Yeah. It's very black and white, or you're on this side or that side. And we've just perpetuated that. Even the people that are complaining about that or keep perpetuating it. It's just not it doesn't. Yeah. We have to have this is where it's time for a revolution, to have a whole new conversation.
Yes.
And if you think about it, it's in politics, it's in religion, it's in schools, it's in relationships. This is where it's like, where are we taking sides and fighting? And we need to see that we're really on the same side, or someone shared with me today that conflict is just two people who want different things.
Yeah.
It's just, that's it. And if you see it that way, you go, oh, well, of course, then how can we then have a conversation where everybody gets what they want, or they realize this isn't the venue for it.
Right.
And so it's really we're calling for a revolution in the way that we have these conversations around politics.
I agree as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the beautiful things also about BG5 and human design is, again, going down to just the mechanics of things versus taking it personally. And at the same time, again, what is true and what is just empty promises, right? Standing by your principles and, being able to deliver on what you promise versus just making promises in order to impress or get people aboard or make people like you or not be rejected, right? So, I think, Chris, what you said in taking a look at it both in your personal life, but also, the different layers of it that are out there in society, from, like you said, from the schools to our politics to, religion to everything nowadays. So again, just something to really pay attention to. And if we take a look at who was born on this day, it was Thomas Edison, an inventor and businessman. So the life work theme is explanation. So you are a prophet that travels from place to place, addressing the principles behind the necessity by pointing out what basic needs must be satisfied for all to survive, the sensitivity to those in need. So think about, what he's credited with inventing. So one of the things that he was one of the first inventors to apply the principle of organized science and teamwork to the process of invention. So working with many researchers and working with employees. So in a sense, having this team, and he's credited for inventing the electric light bulb, the electric power generation, sound recording, and motion picture, and has had a widespread impact on the modern industrialized world. I mean, talk about a revolution, right? If you take a look at how revolutionary the light bulb was, in changing the way that we work, changing the way that we live, changing the structure of society. It's a huge transformation, and think of how much influence he had.
Mm. I actually only know light bulb, but all the other things are also quite impressive. Electric power generation, sound recording, motion picture.
We wouldn't be doing this if, someone might have come up with it at some point, but hey, thanks, Tom. More power to you, man. Good job. Because he stuck with it, right?
Yeah.
So.
And you often, hear that the story of, how many times did he try, how many times did he fail inventing a light bulb, right? Mm-hmm. Thousands of times before the light bulb was invented. I find it interesting. I always like this genius to freak here in the 4323, right? Unconscious. So very much, the genius ahead of his time, and bringing something new. And like I said, it revolutionized, the entire world, the entire planet, mm-hmm. And how we live. So it's quite amazing.
Exactly. And look at the fourth, trait 4, the, problem solver. And then he's a split definition. So he's collaborative. So he would naturally collaborate with others in order to bring these ideas into, intuitively into form.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's cool. Huh.
Yeah, we were just talking about that today. I have several of you here that are in the BG5 certification semester 1, and we were just talking about the different working environments and how important it is to understand what working environment you work in. And so, you know, the fact that he was one of the first inventors to apply principles of organized science and teamwork to the process of invention, like you said, having this collaborative assimilation, working in collaboration, in order to create these inventions.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. Anything on Facebook Live, or anyone else like to share your insight, your perspective, or have any questions about trait number 49?
We have nothing on Facebook Live right now. There are people watching, but no comments.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Hey, Kitty.
Say hi, Moxie.
Oh, hi, Kitty.
Yes. Well, if you're gonna crawl around, you're gonna join me.
Yeah, exactly. She's like, yeah. It's just, she's
whatever.
revolutionized. She's like, I'm out of here.
She has figured out. I have a little panel on my desk, and she's figured out which button to press to turn off my mic. She's done that now several times. It's hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, it has been really, really great having you all join us. I do have a big announcement that is coming up. Yes. So our new website will be launching in a couple of weeks. So I just wanted to give everybody a heads up. We're launching into a new website. So things are going to be a little bit different as far as the links and everything that we've had previous. So we'll update those as you get it. But I'm really, really excited for the update and to release it and get everything on there. So we've been working hard and getting this up and running. So I just wanted to give you a little preview and a little heads up that in a couple of weeks we are going to have a new website. So I invite you to check it out. It's very exciting. And again, if you are new to BG5 and human design, you can find out more about your career design by getting a free report. You can go to the BG5businessinstitute.com. That is going to be the same link, and you can actually see in the new website, you could click right there to get a free report. Also, classes. We've already started our semester, but the next semester is going to be coming up in May. So if you have any interest in studying BG5, learning more about it, we have both a foundation course and a BG5 Career and Business Consultant certification course that is coming up in May. Again, those links will probably change. We'll figure it out as we go along. But be aware of that, and also the Profit Potential workshops. Those are ongoing, so we invite you to check those out. And I removed part of the piece here because our website's going to change, but you can find our past episodes on YouTube. So check us out there. All right. Well, it has been fabulous. I'm glad you were able to jump in and join us, Chris.
Too.
And it was it was so fun to hear from you, Linda, and hear from you, Rachel. Thank you so much for contributing to our BG5 Live. And what should we pay attention to this week? What should we be aware of this week to wrap everything up?
I see your face, Chris. Well, the sensitivity, that's the sensitivity to people around, right? The basic needs, those that are in need, and yeah. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Natalie. How about for you, Chris?
Yeah, I think it's that, and also recognizing, so if you don't have it defined in your design all the time, where are you more attuned to that right now, and where are you looking at, where are the things that where is it time for a revolution in your life, in your business, in your career, in your relationships, and whatever that is? And does it have to be so radical as quitting the job or leaving or whatever? Does it have to be divorce? It might be, but it might not be. And to be aware of, because of the way it ratchets, and that this is in the emotional intelligence function, to not make any rash decisions, but to really feel into that and be present with it, versus just doing something because it's that energy is present. So really being aware of that, and how you're impacted. If you have the 19, how that's going to complete the channel, and all of that. So yeah, this is a fun week.
Yeah.
Have fun with it.
Yeah. Lots to pay attention to. And what we talked about too is your principles, because ultimately this is your principles, right? And standing, what are your principles? What are you willing to accept and what are you not willing to accept? You know, I love what Linda shared, is really in standing by their principles, right? That can be very attractive, because they know what to expect. They know what you stand for, right? When we're talking about the platform earlier and quality 4, you know, people know what you stand for. And not only do they know what you stand for, you actually do stand for it, right? It's not just empty promises. Yeah. So taking a look at what are your principles? Where is there a place for a revolution? But at the same time, again, making sure that you are not operating on emotional highs or making decisions on emotional highs or emotional lows, right? Making sure you have some clarity. So again, there may be a tendency to erupt, right? To explode. That's not the time to make a decision. So wait, right? And you know, if things are a little bit emotionally up and down, or a little emotionally rough with relationships, right? Before Valentine's Day, just realize that that's what's happening in the background. And again, don't make it wrong. It's just, you know, it's like when it's snowing outside, it's just been snowing here. When it's snowing outside, you don't make the snow wrong. It's just the snow, right? And now you know that it's there, and now you can deal with it. Yeah. Beautiful. All right. Thank you, every one of you. It's been fabulous to have this discussion. Really some ahas for myself as well, and kind of taking a look at you know, how this affects us on a personal level, how we can see this in the bigger picture. So I really appreciate each and every one of you. All right, we're going to sign off for this week, and we'll see you all next week when we move into the 30 and the fates take hold.
Yay!
All right, thanks everyone. Bye-bye.